Today I want to talk to you about one of my favorite authors and illustrators, and his name is Paul Zelinsky. And this is one of the books that he illustrated, but it's called Z is for Moose. It's an alphabet book. And in the book, the zebra is in charge of all the letters and all the where they go. And how hard can that be? Because it's the alphabet, right? But something happens and he forgets moose. And so moose gets left out. Let me show you one of my favorite pages. It says, D is for moose. And Moose says, no, moose does not start with D. You're on the wrong page. E is for elephant. Look out! The moose runs into the elephant and says, oh, sorry. What is going to happen to Moose? How is he going to get back into the alphabet? What will happen between him and Zebra? You have to read this book to find out. I want to tell you a little bit more about Paul Zelinsky. What do you think this book might have to do with Paul Zelinsky? Well, Paul Zelinsky, we've read this book before in class, and it's by Maurice Sendak. It's Where the Wild Things Are. It received the Caldecott Medal. But what this has to do with Paul Zelinsky is Maurice Sendak was his professor in college. So when Paul was in college, Maurice Sendak is the one that really influenced him to get more involved in art and make him want to become an artist. Now, this book also has to do something with Paul Zelinsky. This is another book we've read in class, Make Way for Ducklings by Robert McCloskey. Also a Caldecott Medal book. And this is Paul Zelinsky's favorite book. Now, I want to tell you one more thing about Paul. When Paul he doesn't really have, some authors and illustrators that have a certain style, and he doesn't. His style kind of matches whatever book he's doing and whatever feeling he wants the book to have. So, but he got a really early start, and we have these in the classroom. This is Highlights Magazine. And Paul's very first work was a picture that he drew, and it ended up being in Highlights Magazine. Here is the picture that appeared that was Paul Zelinsky's picture in Highlights Magazine. For a while, his family lived in Japan, and this is a picture he did of one of the geisha girls there, and this is what they wore with their kimono. And he did this when he was a child, and it actually was printed in the Highlights Magazine. Now, some of his other award books that he's gotten is Rapunzel, and that was in 1998. And it also received the Notable Book Selection from the American Library Association in 98. And then another book is Rumpelstiltskin. And Rumpelstiltskin, it won a Parents' Choice Award in 86. It's one of the 10 Best Children's Book Awards in 86 by Redbook. And it was the Caldecott Honor Book in 87. And it also received the White Raven Book Award International Youth Library. It received a lot of awards, actually. It got the Best Books Award from the School Library Journal, Society of Illustrators Show Selection. And when he paints these pictures in this book, what he did, he had to actually study a lot of a time that was called the Renaissance time. And he went back and studied the authors and the illustrators and the works that they did. And so he makes his paintings and his writings reflect that. So he really does a lot of research when he's writing and doing his illustrations. Another one of his books was Hansel and Gretel, and it received an honor book for the Caldecott. And this is another one of his pictures from his books. And then we have Swamp Angel. It received an award for the Publishers Weekly in 94, and it was also a Caldecott honor book. And he received, it was the Best Illustrated Book of the Year award for the New York Times in 1994. Another one of the books that he wrote or adapted and he worked on illustrated was The Wheels on the Bus. And you notice on these that his pictures are completely different. There's a whole different style. So he really tries to match the style of his work to what he's drawing. This received the Parents' Choice Picture Book Award and the Reading Magic Award from Redbook in 1990. And there's just another picture from it. Also, the New York Times Best Illustrated Book Award in 2002. And this one was neat because it has moving pictures in it that he did. Now, this is the book that I shared with you earlier. Z is for Moose. And it also won the Book List Editor's Choice in 2012. And here is another example for the page for it. It says K is for kangaroo. And you notice that he's in the pocket. And he was like, is it time for me to come out now? And then on L, the next letter, he's getting ready because he knows that his letter comes after L. He's very excited. Again, Maurice Sendak was his inspiration for going into this. And then he had some earlier drawings too. Dear Mr. Henshaw. And you notice this one is in, it's just like a pencil drawing that he's done. And then we love Ralph S. Mouse. He did some illustrations from those. And there he is, Paul Zelinsky. There was his favorite book again. And here he is at work in his studio. And here he is. And just from these pictures, he looks like he would be a fun guy. He actually, you can talk to him on some different social media sites, and he will actually comment and things like that back. But he's a fun illustrator. He really puts his heart into everything that he does. It's been illustrated by Paul Zelinsky. That's called Rumpelstiltskin. And in this book, there is a poor man who, this is a folk tale by the way, and there is a poor man in here, and he happens upon the king one day, and he tells the king that his daughter can spin straw into gold. Well, that's a lie, but he's trying to impress the king. Well, the king is very excited about this, so he wants to meet this young woman, and he wants her to come to the castle and to spin the gold for him. So they bring her into the castle. Well, of course she can't, because she doesn't know how to do that, and she's crying. Well, this little man shows up, and he agrees to help her, but she has to give him something. So at first, she gives him her ring, and so he actually can spin the straw into gold. He's magic. And so the king's very excited. Well, of course, he wants more gold. He's greedy, so he wants her to do it again. Well, so the last time she spins the straw, the king comes in and he says, he's very impressed, and he says, tonight you must spin this straw too, and if you succeed, you shall become my wife, because he thinks he couldn't find a richer wife. Well, then she has a room full of straw. And again, the little man shows up, but she has nothing to give. So he says, then promise that when you become queen, your first child will belong to me. So he is asking her to give away her first child after she marries. So you have to read this book and figure out what happens to her. Does she make more gold? What happens to the little man? And what happens? Does she become the queen? Does she have a child? And does the child go live with the little man? So read this book, and you can figure out what happens.